Following on from the last tutorial where I showed you how to trigger a wave recording from a vibration channel and record the signal in channel 4, just want to add some additional things about using the 958A analyzer in ground vibration mode, which might also be useful. So assuming you've seen the other video, let's just take a look at the settings in the ground vibration mode, and then you'll have a choice of two modes of operation. The analyzer is currently in wave recording mode, so we need to change the function. So we go to the main menu, function, measurement function, and then move up to the ground vibration mode and select that. And you'll see the GV is up in the top of the screen there to indicate the mode of the analyzer. Now the ground vibration mode is quite useful because it allows you to measure VDVs and PPVs at the same time in the same channel. This might be something that you'd want to do. So essentially it gives you two vibration profiles per channel. But it's set up to also record sound in channel 4, and obviously we can use one of the vibration measurement channels to trigger the sound recording. So let's now go to the main menu again and come down to the input. Everything is pretty much set up the way as I had it before, except I can now go into the channel setup, and you'll see that there are two profiles. So the first profile here, say in channel 1, you could set that to have a whole body frequency weighting, for example. So you might, since this is channel 1, which is one of the X or Y directions, I'd probably want to set this one to WD. And if I go to profile 2, I can select a suitable velocity channel. You've got a choice of high pass filters here, either 1, 3 and 10 Hz for the velocity. In practice, if you're doing BS7385 part 2, you probably don't want to go below 3 Hz, so that's fine. And also you can select the frequency band here for the velocity measurement. Again, you probably don't really want to go above about 300 Hz. Bandwidth, but you may even want to go lower than that. So these are the parameters that we now have in each vibration channel. But if I stay in the channel menu and look at profile 1 and go to channel 4, you'll see that I can set this up to be a sound channel, so we connect our microphone to the TNC at the top of the instrument. And I can set things like the profiles, fast, slow, A weighted, C weighted, Z weighted, that sort of thing. So that can all be set up in advance. Let's now escape out to the main menu, and we'll come down to the trigger setup now. And just like before, we can set wave triggers, also measurement and logger triggers. But before we do that, we'll go to the trigger event setup, and here we can now choose which channel we want to trigger from. So let's take channel 3 for example, and if I choose, let's say I want to trigger off the peak particle velocity, I'll choose profile 2 because that was set to velocity. Press enter. Got a couple of events that I can set here, but I'll only choose one. And again, I can set that to level plus. Probably put in some sort of time window, and if I trigger off the peak, that will be triggering off the peak particle velocity. And we can set the level there as well, which is in millimeters per second. So that's all set up and ready to go. Now we have those events defined, I can now come up to the wave trigger and I can enable that. I can choose how long I want my signal to be. I can put a pre-trigger in if I want to, just like before. And now I can select the sources, and you can see that I've now added an additional trigger in the table here, which is now looking at channel 3 profile 2 rather than channel 3 profile 1, which of course is the weighted acceleration channel. So let's enable that. and well, I probably don't really need to use that one, but you could actually have more than one trigger available. Okay, if we're happy with that setup, press enter, and now we can escape and escape right out to the input menu, and we can select the WAV parameters. So again, as before, we can choose the type of format that we're using here, whether we're using safe mode. If you want to store the velocity signal, normally this would be from channels 1, 2 and 3, you can select that. The sample rate is fixed, however, as that is defined in the measurement bandwidth for the velocity channel in profile 2 in channels 1, 2 and 3. But the sound channel is sampled at full bandwidth, so makes much more sense. Let's disable the velocity because we haven't enabled any of the channels to record that. And then if we're happy with that setup, press enter, and we're now ready to go. The last thing I need to do is to plug in my USB stick. As before, don't be over ambitious, don't make it too large. So I'll plug it in, and as before, it will prepare the USB stick. I'm happy with all those things, and now we're ready to do our measurements. So here the analyzer is now in ground vibration mode, and you can see the little musical note icon at the top there to say that the USB stick is enabled and ready to go for wave recording. So start your measurement, and then if a trigger comes along, we should record an audio file. So it's exactly the same as the other mode of operation, the wave recording mode of operation, except that this is specifically for ground vibration applications. Have the FFT option installed on the analyzer as well. You can also calculate dominant frequency, and when you download the data to the Svan PC++ software, you'll see the type of representation you're familiar with, where it will plot the dominant frequency and the peak particle velocity according to BS 7385 Part 2. Hopefully that was useful.